What is up, homies? Welcome to another episode of Into the Necrosphere. We're up now to number 58, and I am talking today to Nick Sagias of Tribe of Pazuzu, a great band out of Toronto, Canada, who are responsible for an awesome EP that came out earlier this year called King of All Demons. I played a track off of it last week, and I will do another one this week. But before we get to that, it is time for another band to join the hallowed pantheon of future legends that have basked in the glow of a mention on the Into the Necrosphere Demo of the Week segment. This band is called Andracca. They come to us by way of the United Kingdom. They put out a release earlier this year that's been on my radar. It most certainly will be on your radar after this. Off of the EP of the same name, this is a track called A Sermon in the Universal Language of Suffering. That was Andracca with a track called A Sermon in the Universal Language of Suffering. Check them out on Bandcamp, and if you like what you hear and the spirit moves you to do so, buy a t-shirt, buy some tunes. And when they ask you who sent you, you let them know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere that referred you onto them or introduced you to their music. Right, coming up later on in the show, I'm going to be reviewing some new stuff, the new Akhlys and the new Inquisition. I will be ranting and raving like a cranky old man over the news. And of course, I'm going to be talking to Nick Sagias shortly. A reminder that next week I start the beginning of my mammoth two-part end-of-year special. I'm going to have Kelly T of Kelly T Reviews on for part one. She's going to be talking about her top 10 of the year, and I'm going to be talking about my numbers 20 through 11. And then the week after, I've got the two lads from Omega Infinity joining me, and we're going to be doing a triple threat underground cult throwdown where each of us will be going through our top 10s of the year. So we're going to talk some trash, listen to some music, and have a good time, and kind of celebrate the fact that even though 2020 has, for the most part, been a fucking pain in the ass to most people, it has been responsible for some really tremendous music. I think we need to look at the positives, and music most certainly has been. So I'm really looking forward to those two episodes. Like I said, they'll be coming your way in the next couple of weeks, and then I'm going to take a break probably until the second week or so of January. I need to rest as well, so I'm going to be chilling out over Christmas. I've got my daughter with me for a couple of days. I'm going to spend some time with my girlfriend, spend some time with the animals out here on the ranch. Play some video games, and just unwind. Like I said, it's been a fucking hell of a year. What else can I let you guys know? If you have not done so yet, follow the show on social media. You can find it on Twitter at Into the Necrosphere, at iNecrosphere. On Instagram and Facebook, it's at Into the Necrosphere. If you are in a band and you've just recorded the most amazing demo that any band has ever recorded in the history of the world, and you are dying for somebody to hear it, then drop me a line at intothenecrosphere@gmail.com, and I will be happy to listen to it. And if I like what I hear, I will most certainly be inviting you on the show, as I have done with many folks down the line, including Sonny. I can't even remember what Sonny's surname is. Sonny from Primal Holocaust. It'll come to me in a second. And I'm going to have a few more folks on next year. I had John Wilcox obviously on from Master's Call. Next year, I'm going to have Evan Hopper from Quell, which I'm really looking forward to because he's a badass guy. So, like I said, if you've got some new music and you want me to hear it, then let me know. Also, if you are dying for an idea of what to buy Granny for Christmas, then head to my Teespring store, which is www.teespring.com/into-the-necrosphere. And you can buy Granny some of the most stylish garments the world has ever seen, including a Into the Necrosphere t-shirt, which features the grim but also subdued Into the Necrosphere logo. I don't actually think subdued is the right word, but you know what I'm talking about. There's some yoga tights, although please don't post any photos of Granny wearing those, because I'd rather not see that. There's some hoodies, there's a face mask, there's all sorts of stuff. So if you're that way inclined, go check it out. And any ducats that I make out of those sales, obviously I'm going to use to upgrade the production values of the podcast. And no, I will not use it to buy either hi-fi equipment or to buy my Lamborghini. Now, whilst I'm away over the Christmas period, there are some 60 episodes in the archives, or at this count, 58 episodes in the archives that you can go and check out. If you haven't done so already, I've got interviews there with Jason Mendonça of Andracca, multiple interviews with my friend Mike Hill of Tombs. Obviously, last week I concluded my epic death metal countdown with Jeremy Wagner of Broken Hope. I mean, Jesus, there's a list of fucking awesome guys in the vaults, so check those out. Like I said, I will be back in the second week of January, but still lots more to come before that morose day. Before the morose day of my short-term sabbatical arrives, including my next conversation, which will probably go down in history as one of my most controversial to date. Please welcome to Into the Necrosphere, Mr. Nick Sagias of Tribe of Pazuzu. So I saw a tweet that you put out, which frankly, I think, given the deluge of fucking bullshit that was coming out at the time, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. We can touch on it in a little bit what you wrote, but that obviously made me go and check out Tribe of Pazuzu. What I heard I thought was fantastic, which is why I featured it on the show last week. And then also why I decided that to reach out to you and see if I could get something set up. But you said you were you were feeling a little under the weather yesterday. It's not the Rona or anything, is it?
No, nothing like that. No, just 3 is a little early sometimes.
Oh. What do you do for a living, and what's kind of I guess have you been keeping yourself busy since the world stopped turning 9 months ago?
Well, I'm just a delivery guy, so nothing actually changed for me when everything went on lockdown. I was still working. Actually, I was working more when that happened. So it was, I don't know. There was really nothing else going on.
Because everybody gets bored and then they start online shopping and spending money and yeah. And
I did that too. Yeah.
And what's life like in Ontario? Because that's where you're based, right?
Yeah, Toronto, just outside, whatever.
Yeah.
It's all right. I mean, I think things have changed.
Sorry, recently. I just had someone try and call, and for some reason, whenever they call, it cuts into the monitor feed. But yeah, so what are things like? What's the situation like in Ontario at the moment? How free are you guys to kind of live life as normal? Or are you in the same boat that we're in right now, which is you're not allowed to hug Granny, but if you go out and burn stuff, then that's okay.
Right. Yeah. We didn't have a lot of the riots or protests or whatever you want to call them. We did have some protests actually, but it didn't escalate too much. Not like in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, we just went into another lockdown on Monday, actually, the second lockdown, and it's really unfortunate for a lot of people, obviously, because businesses are. I think it's almost like an attack on small businesses. It seems like because the virus, though it is deadly, from what I understand, it's not killing more than what the actual flu or regular things would kill in a year. Viruses like that, and I think it's been more detrimental to people's mental states, actually.
So there was a stat I read this morning that said for every 3 people that die from coronavirus, 2 people die because of lockdown, and either that's because of mental health issues and they end up committing suicide, or obviously there's a knock-on effect here of people losing their businesses and their livelihoods and shops that they took years and years and years to build up, and now that's being taken away from them. And I do think a lot of people are probably going to feel a degree, understandably so, of despair, because like you say, small business is being hurt by it more than anything else. It feels to me like from the last things that I've read, big business has been benefiting from it extraordinarily well. I think Amazon in particular.
Yeah, Amazon, Walmart, a few of these other big chains have record profits, the past 9-10 months. And, while small businesses are suffering and going out of business and, people are selling off their livelihoods of what they used to have of businesses and that they built up for so long, like you were saying, it's not an easy thing to do. And then it could just come crashing down within a few months just because, why are we not allowed to support, small businesses or local businesses? But, we could all gather, all of us in a Walmart, though. That's fine, right? I mean, why does the size of the store make any sense if there's, there's going to be proportion, a couple of people in the store versus, hundreds of people in a bigger store? I don't understand why one gets a pass,
Yeah, that's been the biggest issue for me with a lot of the logic around this. So like the logic in the UK over here is you can push a shopping cart, but your kids can't hang from the monkey bars at the park. So for a period of time, no one was allowed to congregate in parks, but you can push a shopping cart in a supermarket because somehow the virus lives longer on monkey bars than they do on shopping cart steel. And it's kind of one thing after the other, as you say. It's like it's these little inconsistencies that we're kind of expected to just swallow wholesale, and if you don't, then you're a monster, and you hate people, you're irresponsible, a conspiracy theorist, and they have every kind of label that they choose to tar you with. And again, I'm not even kind of writing off the idea of coronavirus as a myth, but it's just like, surely you can see there's a few things here that don't really make sense.
Right. Yeah, there are definitely things that don't. They're not congruent. They're not. Consistent with what they're talking about, and they're saying that everything keeps changing, and masks work, masks don't work, masks work. So if the first lockdown worked, and everything got leveled off, then why are we going into a second one now? And if it didn't work before, then why are we going into a second one now? It's the same argument.
Yeah.
So it's like. And then nobody ever talks about Sweden, who never did a lockdown, and their numbers are exactly the same. Their economy's fine. Nobody wants anybody to die, but I mean, you got to weigh it out. And it seems like this virus isn't going away. Like, I'm not saying it's not a virus. There's not a thing going on, because, it is something. Of course, people, no one's dying from the flu this year. It's all corona, right?
The stat was, I think the CDC had reported a 98% drop in flu year on year, and somehow that I think CNBC wrote an article where they legitimately said, "Has coronavirus killed off the flu?" It's like, only in your mind, you fucking moron.
The stats have definitely been padded on those things. But going back to the supermarket, like you were saying, so. How come the supermarkets weren't giving you things to wipe down the cart with? They weren't giving you that stuff. They said, wear a mask. But meanwhile, you're touching everything that everyone else just touched before you.
Yeah.
People have to put it there. Nobody's wiping down anything. I mean, it's just, so many inconsistencies with what they're saying and what they're promoting. They had the time to, in the budget, to print off all these stickers and posters and commercials, like, of what you should be doing right away, almost like as soon as we went into lockdown, there's commercials right away. I thought we were on lockdown. How did they make all these commercials? They're not cheap commercials. I know a lot of the industry did shut down during that, but all of a sudden, all these new commercials were coming out about lockdown procedures, and even all the corporations were jumping on boards, like talking about washing your hands, and buy this, buy that, and be safe.
Wash your hands. No more than 6 people in the house, and all this sort of stuff. So question
that was
for you.
One of my favorite. The first ones was with, "There's no cure, but if you wash your hands, you'll be okay."
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I mean, it's a little soap and water is,
Yeah. Well, the thing that was dumbest to me is that they shut the gyms down when quite clearly, based on the statistics, the people that are most affected by it, in terms of it being, a lethal, a life-threatening illness, much like flu or pneumonia, are people that have underlying health conditions, and some of that is caused by obesity, because the folks that are dying off are people that have diabetes, people that are some people that are obese, whatever the case may be. Obviously a lot of old people. But surely you would want people to be healthy, and you would want people to be getting out and getting exercise and getting, sunshine. We were allowed to kind of walk around out here, but honestly, in the UK, you don't exactly get much sunshine anyway. But
right,
you know what I mean, though? It's like you want to try and encourage people to be healthy, not people getting, picking up even more weight when they're locked indoors, or people that are whose diets go to shit. That just makes them more vulnerable to the disease.
In the past, we've always had commercials about, in public service announcements about health and like what you should do, and just stay active and do this a few minutes a day. And all of a sudden now they're just like, stay home, don't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I mean, people are staying at home and listening to you, so give them some tips to so they don't feel depressed, so they don't feel like they're gaining all this weight, and stay active, a little walk. I see people walking or driving and they have their masks on. There's nobody around them.
I was about to say, that's the fucking stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. When you drive past somebody and they have a mask on inside their own car. I think the mayor of Pennsylvania, was it the mayor of the governor of Pennsylvania, or it's a city in Pennsylvania. They try to push the mandate down that if you're in your own home and somebody comes to visit you, you have to put a mask on as well.
Right. Yeah.
It's just it's like a lot of it also seems to be it's virtue signaling in the sense that they want to show that they're more concerned than the other guy. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the politicians, they want to show, we care about the coronavirus so much that we're going to make you wear a mask when when you're inside your own home. And then the next person goes, well, we care about coronavirus so much. Not only are you going to have to wear a mask in your home, you're going to have one on. And then when you brush your teeth, you're going to lift up the side for 5 seconds. You can stick it in. It is kind of like it basically is a form of virtue signaling a lot of how the virus has been dealt with.
And I think it seems like it also comes from the same people who also were saying about a year ago, I wish a plague would wipe out humanity, so
yeah, that's true.
It's the same people almost. And then now they're all like, obey the government, wear a mask, what are you doing? It's like, well, were you just advocating for everyone dying a year ago? Like
on that topic though, is this not just the ultimate, like I don't know whether it's a joke or it's ironic, it's just to me the like peak 2020 Rage Against the Machine coming out and they're going to be spokespeople for Biden's mask wearing mandate.
Spokesmodels, because they're what are they doing really? They're just
but how fucking insane is that? So the band that said fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, they're now going to come out and they're going to rap in favor of you wearing a mask.
Listen to your government, be a good little
that to me as well, man.
Ridiculous. That is the height of 2020 hypocrisy for sure. I mean,
massively so. I feel like as well that's been some of the biggest craziness of the last 4 or 5 years, has been this thing of these people that were always anti-establishment, rebels, free speech, blah blah blah, and they have been cajoled into this conformist way of thinking. I mean, to a degree that it boggles my mind. Rage Against the Machine, great examples. I don't understand why people have ever taken a fucking moron like Tom Morello seriously when it comes to politics. Every single time you see, him on Blabbermouth talking about something, then, people will go, I don't want to hear what the musician has to say. And then people start listing his credentials. It's like, well, it doesn't mean anything. AOC has a degree in economics. There's no one that's going to convince me that she knows what she's talking about when it comes to, I don't know what sort of fucking mail order exchange bullshit she's got. But the woman doesn't know anything. Anyone who thinks that a tax break is actual physical money that you have, as she thought with New York when she fucking hoofed Amazon out of there.
She's not too bright.
They don't know the first thing about economics.
No, she's not too bright at all. I mean, I haven't heard her say anything worth, repeating. I mean, like other than in a joke, you know what I mean? It's like not serious at all. I don't understand. Like, I mean, it's all kumbaya, hold your hand, like idyllic, paradise type stuff, or
we're compiling lists of Trump's enablers.
Right?
Did you see that?
I saw something about
the Trump Accountability Project that she was going to spearhead.
I heard some rumblings about it. I didn't know there was actually something going on.
Yeah. So they launched a website and everything. They were going to have like a list of apparently everyone that had worked in the administration. But also everyone that had financially donated and anyone they could suss had voted for him. So I don't know whether they were going to scrape social media and go, at one point Nick said something positive about Trump, he must be on this list, and and then start booting people out of their jobs. But I mean, it was the dumbest shit that I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's not even about supporting certain people. It's about you can't even ask questions anymore. Like, I mean, I'm not like who. Like, I never said I was supporting anyone. I'm just asking a question here. Like, why is this happening? And then people get upset. I got when I brought up the Rage Against the Machine thing and the Antifa stuff on Twitter. Some people unfriended me. Some people blocked me. And it's just like I could only assume that if you're for Antifa, you are actually a fascist. You are promoting censorship. You are trying to beat down people's other opinions that don't agree with yours. You say you're tolerant. They say they're all tolerant. I've never seen any tolerance from them at all.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that...
Not just Antifa, but the left in general, I mean.
Yeah. This is, and again, this to me has been the thing that I've found most kind of difficult to wrap my head around over the last couple of years. Like my personal journey when it comes to politics and how I kind of think about things. I was very much, I was obviously, when I was younger, I was very much free speech and, lay off my video games, lay off my movies, lay off my music. People have the right to express themselves as they wish. And if you don't like it, don't watch it. Then, as I grew older, when I was in my early 20s, the Iraq War happened. I was strongly opposed to that. I still am opposed very much to war. I believe you should have a strong military, but I don't believe you should have I think one should avoid any sort of armed conflict as much as you possibly can. When I say one, I mean a country. Anyway, so then I was opposed to that because the Democrats of the time were opposed to it. I naively never thought any further than that. I was like, okay, they're opposed to it, so I'm in their camp, and the Republicans are bad. And then you start to grow up, and you start to learn more and more about exactly what's going on and who stands for what, and then certain things stop making sense to you. And there was a website that launched back in like 2015, I think, called I Side With. And I did the quiz on it, expecting to see overwhelming support for the Democrat candidate. And that was exactly the opposite. It was like 92% for the other guy and 8% for the other person. And it really took me, I was taken aback. I was like, I redid the test because I thought something's fucked up, yeah. And then I started looking at what my answers had been, and I started to really kind of dig into why I had said the stuff I'd said. And I try to kind of almost argue with myself as if I was saying, okay, well, if you had this position about crime, you've had this position about war or about the economy, if someone comes to you with exactly the opposite viewpoint, how do you justify why you think what you think? So I started reading more and more and more, and that was really kind of the shift for me. But I think one of the biggest changes that I saw within that is that the two groups, and I think there's probably a much larger group in the center that just seem to be quite quiet. I think you and I probably sit in there. But what I certainly saw is that a lot of people that kind of sit on that far left side, the Antifa side, the fringes of the left, they're a lot less tolerant than the folks that, the average person that's going to go to a Trump rally or that's going to go or that's going to, cast their vote for the Republicans in America. Way less. And you see that over and over again, like with people like Tim Pool, who used to be on the left, Dave Rubin. I can't remember what her surname is. I think her name is Ariella something or other. She's, big LGBTQ activist. She was the same. She's like, I used to be, really outspoken as far as being someone who was on my, who was on the left, and I started realizing how intolerant these people are, and they, any sort of questioning, anything that goes against the grain of what they think or they want me to think, I'll lose friends. I'll have people threatening me. I'll have people wanting to take away my livelihood. It becomes a real kind of personal onslaught against that person.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like you're the enemy, and it's like you can't even really question anything. I don't know.
I definitely think there's I think there's things that should be done to uplift everybody, and so my as my thinking has evolved now politically, my view is you can uplift everybody through a government that has what I would deem to be a pro-growth position on everything. And the fundamental aspects of that is, one, the government should be small enough that their intrusion and influence in my life is almost negligible. I should hardly ever know who they are. They should be, like, if I look at the states, the federal government should be at least 50% smaller than what it is currently, because it's the greatest perversity to me that tax money is funding all of that fucking bullshit and that oppression that we get. And that's true of Canada, it's true of the UK, it's true of most countries in the West.
Sure. Our taxes are crazy here.
Exactly. So, next thing, low personal income tax, low corporate income tax. Those companies should be incentivized to expand. They shouldn't be incentivized to fuck off and go do business elsewhere. And again, people should keep as much of their money as possible, so they've got the freedom to spend it, because the more they inject into the economy, the more everybody benefits. And then the next thing is equal treatment and law and order. None of this. If you go out and burn down a fucking 7-Eleven or a Target, then it's fine because it was a peaceful protest. But if this person decides that they're going to go to church, then they should be thrown in prison.
Yeah, it's pretty wonky, like what's going on. Like it's definitely skewed. It's makes no sense whatsoever. That's why I think a lot of people are just like, sick of the hypocrisy of it all. Like, I mean, you got the MSM, chanting the same kind of fear into everyone, and be scared. These are the infection rates. Like they tell you how many people have been affected, how many people are dying. They never tell you how many people are clearing up. Which it is what a
99.5%, unless you're older than 70 or you're sick.
Right. So, but they just rather push the fear and the lockdown because, they're all safe. They all have jobs. They're telling you what to do, but the people staying at home, they're all scared. They're all worried. You can't see your loved ones. They're all being disconnected from their families, from their friends. And it's not,
well, so again, a lot of people took pay cuts during this, during the lockdown, and a lot of people lost their jobs. How many people in public sector took a pay cut?
Right. Yeah.
That to me is the biggest insanity. It's like, so they go, well, the government's giving me furlough money. That's private. Well, that's private citizens' money going to the government that they're just redistributing. I'm fine with helping people, but also don't act like the government giving you money is this great gift. I mean, it's your money to begin with, and when I say it's the citizenry's money to begin with.
Yeah. On a couple topics there, like the tax money, for example, like how they're all just like, oh, we'll give everyone benefits, we'll do this and that. But yeah, they are essentially going to be taxing us more. Prices will go up on things, gas goes up, everything goes up to feed these taxes and, for all these free programs that they're, setting up. And no one realizes that, or some people even do realize that, and they're like, oh, I don't mind paying a little bit less if we're going to be safer, or if the climate will change, like, oh, sure, I'll pay that, help change the weather, pay up,
Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, when it comes to politics, the one thing that I think has been true, and it's been true for many decades, and it's especially true now, the name of the game has always been the same. Take money from the private citizen and place it into the pocket of the political class. The political class does nothing. They don't produce anything. They don't do anything productive. They find ways to hoover up whatever money they can from you and I, and then that gets sucked up into oversight committees, state departments, government programs, work streams, projects, and all sorts of other fucking bullshit that they hire people into, who also get paid based on a meritocracy, the same as in any private company, and ultimately, very, very little of the money that gets taken for these specific purposes, like, uplifting, folks in certain demographics, very little of that money actually goes to them, because the government can't do anything as efficiently. And, I know this is a libertarian talking point, but the government can't do anything as efficiently as private companies. And so, like I said, all they do is that money gets used to salary the people that sit in those state departments. Yes, and those state departments are never able to do anything effective, so the problems remain. And so then when they campaign again, they like, okay, are you ready for real change? Like Biden, 47 years of doing fuck all in government, and now all of a sudden he's going to change things.
Yeah, right. And he was already vice president for 8 years too, so it's like, now he's going to do something.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the systematic racist crime bill or whatever that was signed in by him in 1994.
Yeah.
And that's like a huge oversight. It's just like, you guys want to undo systematic racism or whatever you call it. And this guy is the guy who did it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kamala Harris, there's countless stories of evidence suppression, and of some seriously shady dealings when she was attorney general, and people that, or dealings and situations that hurt the people that she claims that she's here to help and change the system for.
She wasn't helping minorities at the time. She was doing the opposite.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the thing as well. I think a lot of people need to understand this about politicians, is politicians do what's politically expedient, and most of them, because they're part of the political class, they want to remain part of the political class because that's how they keep getting money. It's exactly the same as anybody else that's in a job. If something is an existential threat to their ability to support themselves, then they'll do what they need to do to stay there. And in the politician's case, is they'll make promises, they'll say what they need to say to placate the people for a while, and then things will just carry on. Right. Most of those people, I personally think, if you look at, especially in America, you look at people like Mitt Romney, countless folks on the Democrat side. There's no one that's going to be able to convince me that those people have true, genuine principles. Right, they basically do what they need to do to stay in the seat where they can keep making money. But as far as that like political swampery, that cuts across the aisle, and they all look out for each other, and that's why I think the system is as rigged and as corrupt as what it actually is.
Right, true. Yeah, I think that's why they all hated Trump, because he didn't play those games, though.
Yeah,
he came in and shook up everything. Like, these guys had all their cronyism going, and fake deals basically covering globalization that's been inevitable and coming for the past 20 years at least. It's probably longer, but for sure a lot of people put it in play. I think in the 90s, I believe, or in the 2000s. So
yeah, definitely the 90s. So when NAFTA was signed into agreement, and when China was allowed into the World Trade Organization, because that's when the big outsourcing began, and that outsourcing is what harmed so many working class folks in America, and left them disenfranchised. And again, what a lot of people miss in their quest to be in the camp of the do-gooders is the very people that they claim to be representing or claim to want to help are the people that were most hurt by those decisions.
Right, true. I think that outsourcing is definitely a big issue, because everyone, I guess, you want cheaper things, but at the same time you want quality products. But also, jobs are important. Is basically what it all comes down to. And you have all these people, all these entertainers complaining about America, and they get all of their clothing done in China. So they're complaining about the exact same things that they're doing, which is strange, ironic.
Like the clothing companies, Nike,
right?
Literally wanting to like talk down to the and wag the finger at the rest of us all the time.
Right.
How many scandals have there been about like sweatshops that make Nike products?
Exactly. And then why is nobody ever talks about that? Nobody ever calls them on it, and if they do, it's quickly brushed away. And it's like, these are the people you are talking about. These are the exact people you're talking about. The capital, the big, huge corporations that can't be stopped and just go do whatever they want, and they're dumping the toxins into the lakes, and they got the sweatshops going. They have the illegal policies of labor, but they don't stop them. This is exactly what you're talking about. Is it because they're too big? Is it because you pray at their altar? Is it because they give you money? Is it because
I think it's a combination of all of it, but I think it's definitely down to money that they give. I don't just even think it's money they give; it's the amount of activism that they provide ruling for in favor of the ruling class. And again, I do think there's plenty of things to criticize Trump about, but I feel like he was a shock to the system. Sure. I don't think that they expected him to ever win. You can just look at he wasn't expected to win. And I think that when he wanted to start doing stuff like place term limits on Congress members and ban people from becoming lobbyists, that messed with the cash flow. You can't have that. So then all of a sudden you start seeing, like, I think Gad Saad, who's a fellow Canadian, or at least he's from Lebanon now Canadian. I've just read his book, and I think he's taken the most measured approach to Trump as far as saying, look, there's things here to criticize, but at the same time, it is serious cognitive dissonance when you blame everything that's bad in the entire world ever on him. It's absolutely fucking insane.
Well, he just got in there, you know what I mean? Like, he just became president, 4 years, and then everything's his fault all of a sudden. Previous administrations did the same things. Not a peep.
Everything was paradise. Well, now the funniest thing is, now that the media have said that Biden's definitely winning, and it seems like that's going to be the case. The kind of fucking reporting that's coming out is just insane. Like, someone the other day, I think it was a CNN reporter. She was like, she tweeted, "Today Biden wore blue socks with a light orange or light brown stripe."
Wow.
It's like, what the fuck? Is this what reporting is going to be for the next 4 years? Like, Kamala
That's
Harris
actually
wore a very fetching sweater today when she
well,
addressed people in the White House.
I don't know if you've been paying attention, but that's exactly the journalism we have here in Canada about Trudeau.
Yeah, I
No
mean
one calls him on
he's
his
been
faults.
mired in a lot of scandal himself.
Yeah, but you'll never hear about it in Canadian media.
Yeah,
You'll hear about his socks. You'll hear about how great his hair is. You'll hear about other.
his beard oil.
There's not much else that you could do here about it. So what they do is deflect to Trump always and all the bad things he did. Like he had 8 Cokes one day, I think, and so that's pretty.
Oh, there was a whole news cycle based on the fact that he had ketchup with steak.
Wow.
I remember that was early on when he became president. He had some steak dinner and he'd requested or he'd asked for like a pot of ketchup with the steak that he'd ordered. And there was an entire news cycle about that. But I do kind of feel bad for you because I think if I had to choose between Biden and Trudeau, I'd go with the old man. I think as soon as Trudeau was on that video and he when they said I think a woman asked him a question and the verbiage was something around what can we do to make sure that the world is a better place for all mankind, and he stopped her and like we refer to them as people kind, okay?
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, you are the biggest fucking imbecile literally on the face of the earth right now.
Yeah, he's pretty much a joke. A lot of people want him to do good, and he kind of has the ideas of the left that that were just like, they're trying to rush in and all these things, right? So a lot of people support him for his ideas, but I mean, you can't tell me this guy's a good prime minister. I mean, he's just a spoiled rich kid, failed at pretty much every job he tried, which wasn't too many, He's just got, and he's been a massive hypocrite too, as well. Like, I mean, the way he grew up to the way he wants Canada to be and act, and and he's unapologetic for all his past anyway. I mean, he pretends, but I mean, come on. Like, how could you be a teacher, in your late 20s and have blackface and say you didn't know?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
That's something maybe kids in grade school would say, maybe high school, you didn't know. A teacher, though, late 20s, like in Canada, like we were, taught to be pretty sensitive about that kind of stuff. I mean, we've been indoctrinated pretty good in Canada, as you could tell how peaceful, so, and there's outrageous things going on, like these lockdowns, and most people are just like kind of just taking it, and it's just like, it's, and then
that's why he legalized weed. He wanted to make sure. He wanted to make sure that people are kept calm.
That's definitely how he got in. I mean, I've talked to a few people who voted for him just based on that because they didn't know a lot of the issues and they weren't really, voters, but they liked that one topic that, so they were like, okay, let's, that sounds cool to me. But it's a bit of a loaded gun, it seemed like it, because it ushered in a lot of other ideas that aren't exactly beneficial for Canada.
Yeah.
I mean,
I definitely think he was a bit of a Trojan horse, but I think unfortunately a lot of I do think the average person I've said it. I think I've said this on a previous podcast. In fact, I commented this on your Twitter. That's why I'm thinking about it. The average person, when you have a debate with them about anything political, they are immediately reduced to the talking points of whatever trash news channel they watch. And if you watch stuff like, I mean, frankly, if you watch Fox, you're going to get a very, very bloviated version of what the left. I mean, literally, according to them, the left are going to throw us in death camps. Inside of the next 3 weeks. Right. If you watch CNN, then you think that if Satan himself came down to earth, he would still be a nice guy in comparison to Trump. So, it's kind of like. I think Denzel Washington said it. He said if I read if I avoid the news, I'm uninformed. If I read the news or if I watch the news, I'm misinformed. That's kind of the position we're all in. But I think a lot of it is down to the fact that people don't have their own. They've never taken the time to kind of develop their own position on specific things that would pertain to governing a country. You know, what's your stance on crime? What's your stance on how the economy should be run? Taxation, immigration, drugs, whatever the case may be. And then they, you know, and then having that informed kind of platform of your own, you go, okay, who's the politician whose platform most closely aligns to my way of thinking? Because you're never going to find someone who thinks exactly the way that you do. I feel like the responsibility rests on you to then find the person who's most closely aligned to that, and that's who you cast your vote for.
Right, for sure. I'll admit it that for probably my first 46 years of life, I was probably not political at all, you know, and never cared. I mean, maybe as a teen a little bit, I was kind of, you know, forced or pushed some ideas. And I thought like, oh yeah, these guys are bad over here and these guys are the good guys or whatever. And, you know, and I think it was all that the Amazon rainforest was a big issue in the 80s and, you know, which is completely thriving now. So, you know, I mean, like it was another virtue signaling red flag, right? I mean, you know, all feel good things, right? I mean, it's something you can be worried about and have a cause. I forget what actually, so I wasn't political this whole time. And after Trump got into office and when I was hearing, well, let me also say that, I mean, I was also against censorship from ever since the first PMRC hearings I heard. I think I was 14 years old. So that's always been a big issue for me. That's the only political thing that I've ever anti-censorship, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so until after Trump got in, and then they were saying all this crazy shit about him, and at first I was just kind of like, haha, you know, whatever, you know, it was kind of funny or whatever. I guess I didn't really think about it too much. And other people would be saying it at my work or whatever. Oh, did you hear this? Did you hear that? And it was, you know, mostly from the news, obviously, like the CNN and whatever other people were parroting whatever they were saying. And then I watched the actual interviews. Like, I mean, one of them was when he called the MS-13 animals. And all of a sudden, CNN ran with, he called all Mexicans animals.
Yeah.
And it was just like, he didn't say that. I mean, they compounded the question in a way that it made it, you know, indistinguishable. But he said MS-13, these guys are animals. He said that. I mean, you know, and I watched that. And there was a few other news things that I watched, and like when they said, you know, inject the bleach or whatever for it to, you know, the virus thing, or
where he was clearly being sarcastic.
Right, and they ran with that too, and it was just like he didn't say that. I mean, okay, he said it, but if you watch it, he said it in a way where it was just like he's asking them back. It's like, you think that's a good idea, really? Like, I mean. But these nuances aren't, you know, carried over. The MS and, you know, CNN, they just kind of take off with their own narrative and they just say what they want to say. If they're wrong, they're wrong. And they don't apologize for that. And they don't retract it. They never retract any of their wrong news, fake news, whatever they're reporting. So it stays out there. And if you're just watching the news and you catch that clip, then that's what you believe. You know what I mean? You saw it on the news. That's what happened. Whether it was true or not, that's, you don't know, because you just caught that one clip and that's it. And, you know, it's already based some of your opinions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very sneaky what they're doing. It's it's full on propaganda. I mean,
it's extremely, it is 100% propaganda. And you're 100% right that it's sneaky. Sorry, I wanted to show you something real quick. Actually, I'm going to share my screen and see if you can see this. This to me was, because you mentioned that MS-13 thing and it reminded me of the most insane fucking garbage that I have ever seen any news outlet report. And I mean, Vox is trash anyway. But I for many years was planning on becoming a criminologist. I've studied up on gangs, serial killers. I've always just found that sort of thing very interesting. MS-13 is one I studied up in particular. I mean, they really came to prominence as a result of a case in 1999 where a guy's girlfriend was snitching on him. So the gang, when she was 8 months pregnant, lured her into a trap and stabbed her over 130, 140 times. I speak under correction, but it's absolutely horrible. Killed her and her unborn child. I mean, they're a brutal, barbaric bunch of fucking scumbags, and they should be wiped off the face of the earth. Vox's report following Trump's comments. I want to see if we can catch what this person says, because she basically refers to them as nice guys who ride their bikes Hold on, let's get this up.
It's the
But I
same as
mean,
being
it's
protest.
in typical condescending Vox fashion, though.
Right.
Let me just see if I can just find the.
But you see how the left have they've mastered a way of twisting language.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like Antifa, is a perfect example. Like, they're not anti-fascist at all.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, you know what they do though? They accuse you of exactly what they are. It's like
Right,
the
yeah.
ultimate deflection. It's like say you showed up at my house, and the next thing I knew, one of my amplifiers, or I come to visit you, and your BC Rich is gone when I leave, and then you go like, where the fuck is my BC Rich? And you call me up as like, Jackie, you're the only person that came to visit me. My guitar is gone. But in the meantime, I've called up your girlfriend. I've called up your best mate. I was like, dude. He's talking about this BC Rich that's gone. I don't know what he's talking about because he stole my television. That TV that's in his house is mine. And you know, I call up your employer. I'm like, Nick is a scumbag. You need to fire him. And it's like, they literally, that's the way they deflect. And it's if you think about it, it's brilliant because it's just you creating noise that meets noise, and you just keep parroting the same old shit over and over again. And eventually people don't really know what to make sense of, because if I keep on harassing your friend or your girlfriend every 5 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, man, that Nick needs to really return the TV now. It's getting fucking insane.
Right,
Eventually he's going to come to you. He's going to be like, or she's going to come to you. She's going to be like, Nick, did you really not take his TV? Because he seems really sure that you did. I think it's this woman that talks about it, by the way. So let's see if it's this bit.
And the MS-13 that I'm seeing on the ground there has almost nothing in common with the MS-13 as portrayed by the government.
For one, the Trump administration presents MS-13 as a drug cartel.
The drug smugglers and the vile criminal cartels like MS-13.
But that's not really the case.
MS-13 is not really involved with the international drug trade. The MS-13 members that I've been following are working after-school jobs. They're living with their parents. They get around Long Island on bicycles because they can't afford cars.
That's the most fucking absurd thing that I have ever heard of in my entire life.
It's all propaganda at this point. It's all just like reverse. They're just. I mean, how can you like be there with a straight face and say that stuff?
I was just about to say, like watch the countless documentaries that have been made about them, the books that have been written about them. People have been talking about them since like the late 90s, and now all of a sudden they're nice boys who ride their bikes and work after school jobs. They imagine that the guy is like running around with his fucking face tattoos, like flashing his gang signs, like, "Hey, hang on, guys, I've got my shift at McDonald's is starting in a second. We'll come back to this corner in a little bit."
Yeah, I mean, it's so obvious what's going on. Like it's so like anything Trump says is just like reversed, right? Yeah. I mean, and it's just like, if you know anything about MS-13, which obviously you do, I mean, but the general public, I mean, like since the 90s for sure. I mean, I remember hearing about this stuff through all the other gang stuff that was going on in LA and rap and all that kind of stuff. It was all somewhat connected because it all came up at the same time in the 90s. I remember the movie American Me and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They touch upon that stuff, but it's the same thing. When you go into those jail systems, those guys are like professional criminals. They know the system, know everybody in there. It's like, you're not really punishing a lot of these people by sending them in there. They have ways of getting stuff. They have, it's a huge problem. These guys, of course, they're dealing drugs. Of course, they're a huge problem. And it's not just America, because they're in the Mexican jails too, and in Mexico. It's a huge worldwide problem at this point. These guys. And
just in case people go, well, Jackie and Nick are just really hard on these nice boys who ride their bikes. Google search MS-13 and news. 22 hours ago, 55-year sentence affirmed for 15-year-old MS-13 gang killer. I guess he just rode over the guy accidentally with his bike on his way to go and work his shift at Target. 6 MS-13 gang members indicted in Houston for murder. MS-13 gang members face federal charges in 2018 machete death. So again, he must have run as he was running to do his paper route. He slipped and the machete flew out of his hands. Judge upholds conviction of MS-13 member for the murder of 2 teens in Eastie. And it's one fucking thing after the other. So this comes back to again, like at some point, are people not just, don't you just ask a question and go, listen, something doesn't make sense to me here. You're telling me stuff that I don't see. It's like when they keep saying, like, we need to try Trump for his crimes against humanity. What crimes?
Right. Yeah. It's a broad brush that they're trying to paint it with, and that this one man is responsible for all the specific crimes that are going on, and he's inciting violence, and he's calling up his troops and stuff like that. It's just like,
when he said stand down. I mean, that was a bad choice of words when he said stand down to the Proud Boys. But I mean, fucking hell, you can. I still don't see the Proud Boys running around, kicking people's faces in to the extent that Antifa has been doing.
No, and it's all, from what I understand and what it seems like to me. I mean, I'm not defending anyone, but I mean, they do seem more reactionary, and as defensive than offensive out there. But I think they just keep asking the questions, the same stupid questions to the president, because they want him to trip up. Because it's like, why do you need someone to denounce an organization that isn't active right now? Like, for example, the KKK. Like, they're not, like, Antifa is the problem. BLM is the problem. They're the ones out there rioting, killing, setting things on fire. And MSN is quiet. Nobody says anything about that. No coronavirus, no destruction of property, no deaths, nothing. Peaceful protest.
Yeah, Chris Cuomo said, like, when it became apparent that
our problem, how are white supremacists our problem? I don't, and they keep on talking about, when they see Antifa, they try to say it's white supremacists being bussed into the cities to destroy the city and make it look like it's someone else. It's like, what? Like, what are you guys even talking about? This is Antifa. Like, they've already expressed their intent. They're not quiet about it, but they're running cover for them, like the mainstream media, and it's very strange.
Or they turn around and they say Antifa is just an idea. They don't really. It's like, so all of these websites and fucking Twitter accounts and T-shirts and all this stuff that's specifically branded Antifa, it's just an idea.
Yeah, right.
It's just new imagination.
Where's the money going?
Exactly. So here's my question. How did this bullshit infiltrate the metal scene? Because I have been astounded at the amount of just ridiculous garbage that I see coming from people in the scene in both bands. I mean, you kind of expect it from people that are bigger names in bands, because I think they're just disconnected from reality. But in smaller bands, like as you were saying, you kind of started getting culling bands off your list, and it's some of the stuff that I look at, like we probably will end up naming names if we get fired enough, but like there's a band called Kaina that's it's actually like a solo project. I mean, he's a prime example. It's the most obscene fucking crap that he posts on Twitter and on all of his social media, like just incoherent stupidity, and it seems to permeate this big part of the metal scene to a point now where you got people actively trying to like I said, we now have shows being cancelled. Marduk and Taka play booked to play at places. Mugwa, those shows get cancelled now. Like I never thought we'd see a return back to the 80s where metal bands were being censored, but that we were the ones doing, or the people in the scene were the ones leading the charge and doing the censoring.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. It's actually started not just the PMRC hearings, like that kind of censorship in the 80s, but I remember there was also a sense of this diversity thing that even happened back then. I know we didn't really talk about that, but I mean, it's basically the crux of a lot of this stuff. Like, people are, they want diversity. They don't want it, and it's like, well, when you got into metal, you got into it for something different. You got into it for a specific thing, and then you want to change it. So what's that's not going to happen. If you want to try something else, some subgenres or whatever, and they've been done to death. I mean, like, since as far back as I can remember, like funk metal and grunge metal and even what industrial metal and folk metal. I hear it's like I don't even know what that is. Like things that don't even go together. It's just like
the whole that whole movement in like the early 2000s, like what they used to call Beauty and the Beast death metal, and it's like women singing like sounding like Enya, and then some fucking imbecile that couldn't hack it in a decent death metal band. He's like growling some fucking Shakespearean nonsense. But I know what you mean. It's like, and actually just as a side comment about diversity in metal, I don't care what anybody says, but is this not the most accepting genre of music on the face of the earth?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. If if you're a musician, you've got the goods, people will support you. Man, woman, gay, straight, it does not matter. It doesn't matter about your background. All that matters is if you've got the chops. And I have never been to a show, and I've been to at least easily 650 to 700 shows in the last 2 years. Not 2 years, sorry, 20 years. I've never once seen someone behave like a dickhead to somebody based on an immutable characteristic or based on the fact that they just didn't like the look of them.
No, I have to completely agree with that. I've never seen that at shows. I may have seen some people get a little rowdy from drinking, but I've never seen people.
Yeah, but that's everywhere.
Right. But yeah, I mean, and even that doesn't happen that often really like here. But as far as like people being misogynistic or racist, I've never seen that.
No.
I mean, called out. And like, yeah, I mean, we've been, metal is so accommodating to everyone. It's just recently I see these white people complaining about how white metal is. And
yeah.
I don't know if they've ever been to a reggae show or a dance hall show. I have, and it's like it's obviously completely opposite and flipped, and it's no one's saying anything about that, but I've never seen anything happen at a metal show that would be threatening to anyone.
And I was just about to say, like, I would say you could point the finger and go, if there were barriers to entry, like if it was like a known thing, like record labels, if you have a black guitarist, they're not gonna look at you. Or if you have if you got an African American frontman, they're gonna write you off. But that's just simply not true.
My first band Overthrow, we had a black guitarist, and we never made an issue about it, and I don't remember anybody making an issue of it. So I don't, so it's not like we were outside of this, like in a bubble, this white privilege bubble that people talk about or whatever. Because we had a black guy in the band, and we never heard, people weren't, we opened for big bands too. I mean, at the time, and I don't remember anybody saying anything or hating us for that. And in fact, we had like great turnouts, better than a lot of the local bands. So it wasn't, you can't, I don't know, man. It's just. But
you're playing with guys that have a pretty significant legacy as well. I mean, Flo, obviously from Cryptopsy being in the band. How did you assemble this squadron of men that you got? Because, like, I was amazed when I listened to King of All Demons, just at how seasoned it sounds. And I know all of you guys have a lot of experience, but like there seems to be a real chemistry, and everyone seems to really gel in this band. Like you guys have been playing together for 5-6 records.
Together? No,
yeah, I get the impression you guys have been, I know this is only your second EP, but you the impression that you come away with when you listen to that EP is like these dudes have been playing together for fucking years.
Right. Sorry. I misheard what you said there.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
But, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's great how it came together. I love it. I mean, I don't know if you want to get to the whole, get right into like the whole history of how it happened. I guess.
Yeah, no, I'd love to know, because it kind of caught me by surprise too. I mean, obviously I knew that Flo was in Ultimass, and I'm a big fan of Cryptopsy. But this came out. Like I said, I saw you on Twitter, and I thought, let me check out this dude's band, and I listened to it. I was like, fuck, that's really, really good.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. What happened? I guess I was doing my other band, Soulstorm, which was basically it's just like a kind of like an I don't give a fuck kind of band. It's just like, if you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? I was just kind of doing it for me. I didn't really care about much else. You know what I mean? Which is actually not a bad way to approach a band, but at the same time, it's just like I didn't really care about anything. You know what I mean? So it just kind of was what it was. And after that, kind of like I tried to do like a live thing. We were working on a new album, and it just kind of fell apart. And from a few different aspects, like the playing wise, recording it and stuff like that. It just didn't come together. So at the end of that, I kind of just said to, I was already working with Jason DeVille and his girlfriend. They were promoting our stuff, Black Element. And so I approached him. He actually mentioned something like this to me before, and I kind of just wrote it off, like, because I was just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to be in a band with Flo. Okay, sure, whatever. Like, I didn't really think too much about it. So that was actually my impetus for kind of approaching him and saying, like, look, this is what I want to do. I have all these songs. I want to do them, but I want to do them properly. I don't want to half-ass it with musicians. I don't want to half-ass it with the studio. I want to do this, like, because it's been a long time since I kind of did that kind of style, like really aggressive, like, well, Soul Servant was aggressive, just a different, more doom kind of style, right?
Yeah.
So this is more just like in your face, fast, just like no compromise, relentless, what we're trying to do here. And I needed people who could pull it off, like, I mean, there was nothing about half-assing it at all, because I knew I needed the end product to be super powerful to get the point across. So Jason, in the first conversation, he pretty much brought up Flo and John. And at first I was just kind of like, wow, that's a little, these guys are like, professionals. And
those are some heavyweights.
Yeah. And, these guys, long careers of, both their bands. And, and I've been out of it for a while, so I didn't feel like I was really at that level. But, I mean, they all listened to the songs. They all loved the songs. They said had a cool old school vibe. And so these were like nice green lights to have at the time, and, kind of help feel like, okay, this is the right move to do. You know what I mean? This is comfortable. It actually feels really cool. These guys are into it and they can perform. So that's basically how it came together. And, that's the same lineup from the beginning. Like, we haven't changed anything. John couldn't, perform to the same capacity on the second EP as he did on the first. So he still appears on it. He does some backup vocals and stuff. So, it's just the way it goes. I mean, like, he's not less in the band because of that. I mean, it's all up to him how involved he wants to be, because I know he's super busy. I think they're already working on some new stuff again. Like, I saw some video stuff the other day from the Jam Studio. So they're always working on stuff. They guys got the new album out, and great reviews for that. So it's really up to him. And as well, the same as Flo. I mean, but they both expressed interest in pursuing further recordings and live stuff. So it's very comforting, and I'm honored and humbled by the whole thing. Having these guys work with me, it's a honor and a pleasure to work with these guys. It's amazing, to see the songs come to fruition too. Like, I mean, I write these songs by myself here. I send them to Jason and Randy, the other guitarist, and Randy's a big part of the huge, how overall thing it comes. He does a lot of the rhythms, and that guy. I mean, when I started hearing him play, he came in for solos originally, and when I got together with him and I heard him play, and he could just do everything, and it just made more sense to take one guitarist from Toronto to the studio at the time, to help out or whatever, like whatever John couldn't do or wasn't able to do at the time, because of time and, not so much distance, because we kind of, I sent him, whatever he needed or whatever. But, so Randy's a huge part. Like, his picking is just bang on. Listen to that stuff on the album. I mean, like those recordings, like that guy he's my secret weapon, really. So, I mean, Flo is obvious, powerhouse, necessary, got to be there. But, and, the big name guys, it's been amazing working with them. But Randy as well, let's not discredit him. So,
And I was about to say, it must be awesome in the way that you've kind of described your writing, having probably this vision in your mind and then sending it off to these guys, and then it comes back with their flair added to it. How big of a gap is there, or has there been, say, on the songs that made it onto this EP, between what you kind of had in your head versus what came back when it had been through that, I guess that cycle of Randy, John, Flo? How much are they adding to the outline of what you've put in place?
Honestly, the only thing that happens at the end of all of that is there might be a little bit of editing to do, or depending on if there is a problem, I maybe change a riff. But that's all on my end. Nobody actually adds anything. Flo definitely adds his own fills. I don't tell him how to do his fills. Randy comes up with his own solos. That's all him. Like he bounces them off me. He has like a couple ideas, and then we kind of piece them together sometimes. But they're all his. Like he writes them. John, you can hear more on the first EP where he played the guitar. Like there's a couple things that he adds, like some harmonies and some melodies, some counterparts. So he adds a few things. And like I said, he didn't have time to really get into the stuff on the second album or EP or whatever. But so yeah, it's not that much different. It's just a little bit editing and just like this, the fills and things like that. Just like a little, it's just a sugar on top, really. Like, these guys really just give it a little bit more life, a little bit more, kind of color in a little, maybe I come in with this really dark black image and they kind of put a little flair on top and they're like, oh, you're checking a little solo here, filling up the spaces. And, sometimes I don't actually write spaces for solos. So when I come back, when I listen back to them and I figure out where the vocals go, I find parts for Randy, places for Randy. So that's why they are what they are sometimes. And it's very like compacted in. Like, I don't want to waste time just like on a solo. It's not the focus, you know what I mean? So it's more of an accompaniment, something that adds to something that's already good. You know what I mean? Like when Randy adds his like flair in there, it's just like it just adds to everything. It gives it a little bit more ear candy, I guess you would.
Yeah. And have you guys? You guys haven't performed live yet as Tribe of Pazuzu? Would there ever be plans to do that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole plan of putting out the second EP so quick was that hopefully we could start playing live shows, because the first EP was only 15 minutes long, not enough for a live set. Really, like, I mean, it was 5 songs, but still not enough for a live set. I don't think. Plus, we weren't really getting the offers. We were so new. We've got a lot of offers since then. So now we were primed. In March, let's release the EP and get out there. And March, the lockdown came, and so that put a damper on a lot of things. A lot of people were looking forward to getting out there and really. Bringing it to life. I mean, it's just it's gonna be like a savage, relentless beast. I mean, I can't wait.
I said to someone the other day, I think that if we ever get to a point where people can start going to shows again, I think you're going to see a return to that craziness of like the mid 90s, early 90s, when people were having to spend, whatever money they could scrape together to buy the record, buy the merchandise, buy the, buy the concert ticket, and it wasn't as commoditized as it is now. Because I feel like, the fact that people get their music for free and things like that, the fact they don't have to physically part with money to get a CD, I don't feel like they're as invested in it anymore as they used to be, and so that's why the shows have kind of calmed down. But I feel now that it's been taken away from them, that kind of subconscious value of something in their mind is going to go up exponentially. And I think, I think it's going to be fucking wild when if bands can start playing again, the right band, at the right time on the right stage. I think it's going to be rough. I think it's going to be a bumpy night for a couple of folks who are at the front of that pit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are missing the entertainment a lot. I mean, not just live shows, but I mean. It's not just like the bands too. I mean, it's like there's like sound guys, there's light guys, there's promoters, there's people who own the clubs. A lot of people are like financially, and emotionally drained. They're not getting what they need at this point in time, and it's like it's a really weird time. I hope shows come back. I mean, it's a perfect place, like a testing ground. It's a perfect place to for immediate feedback. I mean, you can't have that kind of relationship online, really. Like, I mean, you have a part of it, like, sure, I got people saying like, oh, I just checked out your band, it's cool, I love it. And, of course that's going to give me a good feeling. I still like it. It's different when you play live to like, a couple hundred people, and you get this immediate feedback. Like, if they like the song or not, you know what I mean? Like, there's Yeah, you know, I mean, like it's you can't fool an audience of people. You know what I mean? Like you can't. If it's shit, it's shit. It's, you know, if it's good, it's good. It's not gonna just be like they're not just there just because it's fun. You know, sometimes like you know what I mean. Like it's not just a thing to do. Maybe it is for some people. I guess I don't know. Like just to go out, but when you have an actual concert, people are going paying for a ticket to go to this show, then that's like an event like that. I mean, that's you can't replace that. I mean, there's, like I said in a different interview, that there's like a symbiotic energy that plays in that whole, you know, vibe in that room. You know what I mean? Like it's not just the artists are like, you know, up there. Like the crowd is giving back an energy where it just helps the whole night. I mean, it's just like you feel it, you see it. You've been to shows like that. I mean,
yeah.
So it's to deprive people of that kind of stuff, because it's not just like shows like as in music, but I mean, wouldn't it be like theater? They're trying to that, you know, that would still be a gathering. And like I heard one of the coronavirus things was like no singing, because that might make the virus travel.
That's been I was about to say that's been one of the commandments that have been ushered down for Thanksgiving. No loud music, no singing.
Well, I remember when they started letting people go to church, and they were like, "Oh, but don't sing at your church." You know, it's like, like I don't understand like these weird stipulations that they have. It's almost like they're trying to see what they could get away with half the time. Like,
so yeah, man. So my thinking around that is, and you can go down a pretty deep conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but my thinking around it is most people crave a degree of predictability in their lives. They crave a degree of reliability and stability, and by that I mean, you know, they kind of want to know, you know, in the simplest terms, the sun is coming up tomorrow. I'm going to wake up at such and such a time. Work starts then. I'm going to be able to do X, Y, Z. And I feel like a lot of what they do with the lockdowns and with these rules and the fact that it keeps changing, they keep throwing these pattern interruptions in, and it keeps on jarring people. And I feel like, in a way, I can already see it happening. They're wearing down people's will, or the collective will of the people. And it's going to get to a point where if they give them back just a fraction of what they had, people will be more than happy to do all sorts of crazy shit in return in order to regain that stability. It's like I use an analogy. Say you have a you say you're in a relationship with somebody, and you know the person you're in a relationship with, every single day they come home from work, they spit in your face, treat you like garbage, you know, and it's an awful toxic situation. And then Saturday morning, instead of acting, you know, instead of treating you like you're you know, fucking chopped liver, they make you coffee. That cup of coffee in your mind is going to be exponentially worth more than had that person done that consistently every single day of the week. You know what I mean?
Right.
What the governments give us, even though in the grand scheme of things it's not going to mean an awful lot, is going to feel to us like it's the greatest gift ever.
Like a Stockholm syndrome type thing or something.
Yeah, 100%. So like over in the UK, for example, I think they've now said, you know, they're going to relax things for 5 days over Christmas. Would you have thought in Christmas 2019 we'd be negotiating over the ability to see our family at Christmas? It's fucking insane to me.
It doesn't. I don't get a lot of what's going on. It's like, you know, I mean, I get it, but it's just the blind, allegiance to whatever they say, and it's just like, and it's all over the place. Like, you know, like I remember we stopped wearing masks through the whole summer mostly, and everything was cool, and everything went away. The infections were going away, deaths were going away. Everything was lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, and then I don't understand why.
And then came the election, and it spiked back up.
right, yeah. And then all those riots and protests, nothing apparently happened during that.
No.
I think maybe like 10 people, Republicans. There was a Sturgis that happened. Apparently that spread the COVID, right? You know?
A super spreader event. That's what they sort of call it.
Yeah. Everything else, nothing, nil. But Sturgis was where it all ground zero, right? You know, like.
Well, again, so when the media declared Biden as president-elect, there was, you know, partying in Washington until, for the entirety of the weekend, because I think the declaration was made on a Saturday evening. They partied for all of the weekend. They like there's these gushing news articles all over the place, like revelers party till late in the night as Biden is declared president-elect. Nothing happened there.
Yeah,
but there's like a big deal when I think Trump had he had a meeting in the Rose Garden, and there were a couple of people that didn't have their masks there, and it's like potential super spreader event.
Yeah, right. And they're obviously sitting far away from him while he's talking, but still, he's there, he's doing it. If they can spin it, they will. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't see the pictures, then you just think Trump had an event as well, and no one had masks. That's all you hear, right?
And they were licking each other's face and coughing all over each other. Tell me something writing wise. Have you been working on more stuff? I guess in amidst all this craziness, are you inspired to write?
No, I don't. I'm not writing like more because of this or anything, or because of like I said, my life didn't change at all at the beginning. Like, I mean, it was no, I was still working a lot. So everyone was all like, oh, I have all this free time. And I'm like, I'm getting ready for work. I'm like, doing 10 and 12-hour shifts. And I'm like, I don't know, it wasn't really, but I've gotten back on track with writing, and there's a bunch of ideas going. There's about 4 that are about 75% finished. There's about another 4 started that need, that maybe have like 1 or 2 riffs, up to maybe about 4 riffs or whatever. So, and I have like a whole bunch of riffs on here. I have to transcribe them over here. Like some of them are, late at night, or I didn't have this, or sometimes I just mouth the riff in there. So I got to figure that out.
There's like a couple of audio samples you like.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because it's almost the same as like not even if I did nothing, and and I woke up and I forgot the riff. It's almost the same as having the riff, like because like you don't even remember your headspace where you were when you wrote that. Sometimes it has a different feel, and it has like every riff has a certain feel, and it doesn't. Sometimes you don't remember the feel right away or whatever. So it's like it's hard to like. I used to write them out, and that was even harder, obviously, because then you'll never remember. At least you can hear with the sound a little bit sometimes, and what you're doing.
I'm sure I read something somewhere that said that something like 80% of people are at their most creative right the moment that they wake up, and then it's like it goes away from there. I can't remember exactly whether it was that or whether it was if they wake up in the middle of the night or something crazy like that. But there's a lot of people, I think, in exactly the same boat as what you are, that you'll have these brilliant ideas in the middle of the night. You're like, fuck it, I'm going to go to sleep again. And the next morning, you're like, where did that riff go? How did it sound?
I would probably say it is probably the middle of the night over the morning, because it has happened to me. And actually, like, just as before I'm going to bed, it also happens, like, where I'll feel myself, I'm draining, I'm ready to crash, but I'm still kind of playing or practicing or something, or even just like it'll just come in your head, and you'll think of something and be like, oh, that would be perfect for that part right there, and you're just so tired that you don't really want to turn everything on again to record it, or whatever, because you're going to be up for a minimum like another half hour right there, right? So, and depending on what you got to do the next day, so you don't take that opportunity, it's lost a lot of the time. Or in the middle of the night, it happens too, because you don't want to get up and spend half hour recording something, turning on all your stuff and whatever, and putting it in there, programming drums or whatever, because you start breaking it down like that, like mentally, like all the steps you got to do. You're like,
yeah.
But then you forget it, and it's gone.
What I would say though is, based on what I'd learned from watching the PMRC hearings, whenever you run dry of ideas, you would just go to that Pazuzu statue that you've got behind you, just lay your hands on it, and the ideas would just magically go into your mind. I like that statue, by the way, and partly because I'm a massive Exorcist fan, but I fucking love that statue that you have behind you. What is that, like a proper carved out statue?
Yeah, that's a stone statue. A guy on an artist guy. He sells them on eBay. He sells them a little bit bigger than that as well, I think. But I wasn't sure, what this guy was selling or whatever at the time, so I just grabbed one. It's a little bit pricey. I forget his name, Tia Huang or something like that. I think he's from Hawaii. or I can't even really remember. So, but he makes this. I guess it's a cast. It looks like because he has multiple items, and sometimes he colors them a little bit different and different size. Like I said, so he's got 2 or 3 different sizes. So yeah, and then it just didn't stay up. So I put it on a base. I kind of glued it on there and painted the base and stuff. And that was my handiwork there.
No, I like it, dude. I think it looks very, very cool. But listen, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time. Very, very excited to see what you guys put out next, and I appreciate you giving me the time. I had an absolute blast, and to kind of close things off on a positive note, at the end of the day, I think you and I probably feel the same. I want to see people, generally speaking, do well, no matter who you are, no matter what your background is. But I think the only way in which we can achieve that is if people understand that folks are going to have differences in opinion to them. But we need to figure out a way to share the planet, and the only way we're going to do that is through compromise. And I think the way to do that is to actually have conversations about things, about your position on policy and your opinion on specific subjects, rather than going, I'm on this team, so everyone who's not on this team is a scumbag. It's not. Life is not a fucking sports game. You know what I mean? It's not a game of ice hockey. It's there's compromise to be made. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. But dude, thank you so much. Take care of yourself, and we'll speak again very soon.
Appreciate the interview. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure, brother. Take care.
All right, have a good one. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. tell you guys our conversation was going to get spicy, but I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you so much to Nick for coming on the show. It was a blast talking to you, buddy. And I didn't mention this when we were in the interview, but I did want to make a point of saying how fucking cool I think his vocals are. And I'm sure you will agree if you listen to that song, Summoning Rituals, that I just played. It's off the Tribe of Pazuzu EP, King of All Demons. That's available on Bandcamp. So go check them out, show them some support. And the fact is, I know that some of you will have listened to that. You will not have agreed with everything that we had to say. But that's absolutely fine too. I've got a lot of friends that don't agree with me on things, and that's kind of why I'm friends with them in many ways, because they keep me in check and they get me to think about certain things. Maybe in ways that I didn't consider thinking about that before. But I've said this on the podcast many times, and I don't want to sound preachy, but I truly believe that if we sat down and spoke to each other as people, for the most part, folks would realize that they've got a lot more in common than the media would have us believe. I truly, truly believe that. So I hope that was certainly the spirit in which our conversation was recorded. I hope that's how it came out. I'm certainly not some fucking Proud Boy supporting nutcase either. But I do have me some questions about a lot of what I see around me, and so should you. Now, let's talk about some new music. And the new Inquisition is upon us after a 4-year wait. This is the new record is called Black Mass for a Mass Grave. It's out on Agonia Records. It is the follow-up to Bloodshed upon the Imperial Altar upon the Celestial Zenith, which I think I've managed to memorize almost correctly. And if you follow me on social media, you will know that I acted as though every single one of my Christmases had come at once. Inquisition are one of my favorite black metal bands, as noted by my many, many conversations about them over the course of the past 58 episodes. Unfortunately, it turns out that this new record, in my opinion at least, is something of a disappointment. It's not a disappointment on the scale of the new Enal Nathrak, but I certainly feel like it's not on a par with what Inquisition have done in the past, and I will explain why. So it starts off well enough. First track is called Spirit of the Black Star. It has a lot of the Inquisition hallmarks, the speed, the real kind of focus on Dagon's riffing. Dagon's vocals, still sound sensational. It goes into a track called Luciferian Rays, which still has some of those hallmarks there, but in my opinion, maybe sounds a little bit kind of stripped down, and I dare say a little bit more accessible than some of the stuff you might have heard on Bloodshed or Ominous Doctrines or any of the previous 3 Inquisition records. And then from there on out, it just seems to kind of slide its way into mediocrity by virtue of the fact that the record doesn't ever really seem to get going. If you listen to any of the last 3 albums, part of the magic of that band, aside from the riffs, is the fact that everything sounds really, fast, aggressive, unhinged. There's kind of a violence to the music that reminds me a little bit of Battles in the North by Immortal. And on Black Mass for a Mass Grave, that is just about absent entirely from track 3 onwards. Track 3 is a song called Necromancy Through a Buried Cosmos, which is generally speaking quite slow, and frankly, it sounds like Dagon was quite depressed when he wrote it. And that seems to be a recurring theme across the rest of the record. There's flashes of the man's brilliance when it comes to writing a great riff, and there's moments on the album that aren't bad at all. But I think it's too slow. It feels too stripped back. There's parts of the record that feel repetitive to me and actually feel to me like it was recorded on a Pro Tools rig and then just kind of copied and pasted a bunch of duplicate sequences after each other to flesh out a song. The other thing that I don't like about the album is it seems like somebody gave Dagon a fucking effects pedal for Christmas, because he insists upon using it in every single song. It works on a track like Spirit of the Black Star. It does not work on all 12 songs on the record. So, like I said, I'm not as disappointed by this as I am by the new Enal Nathrak. But my expectation of Inquisition musically is exceedingly high, and Black Mass for a Mass Grave has not met those expectations. I will play a song right now. I've mentioned the song a couple of times. Let me know what you think of this album. I know that some of you find the idea of listening to Inquisition morally repugnant, and I get why you would feel that way, and I'm going to talk a bit about that in the news section. But for the meantime, let's park that debate, and let me lay on you a track called Spirit of the Black Star.
Shake your light when the white light dies.
bit of the Black Star by Inquisition of a record called Black Mass for a Mass Grave. A couple of years ago, not even a couple of years ago, this is like 20 years ago, I think Kerrang or Metal Hammer, or one of those used to have a way of rating records where they would say it would be something like tape it or buy it, tape it, bin it. What I would say is if you are into buying physical media and you're a fan of Inquisition, probably worth listening to it first on Spotify or the many YouTube streams that you will find on it. Like I said, I was really looking forward to it, but found myself rather disappointed, but would love to hear what you guys think. So drop me a line in the comments of wherever you're watching this or listening to this. And tell me what you think. From a record that I was disappointed by to one that completely bowled me over, the new Akhlys, the third in the band's discography. And, you know, I will say I was a big fan of Supplication that came out in 2009. I was also a big fan of The Dreaming Eye that came out in 2015, but I did not see Akhlys putting out a record quite like they've done with Melano. So Melano is the third album in their discography. It is almost entirely the brainchild of Nas Alchemeth, who has also been in various other bands, Excommunion, Nightbringer, Ruin, Bestia, Arcana, etc. To me, you know, I'll just come out and say it. I think this is a career best work for Akhlys, and it's probably a career best work for Nas. In all of the ways in which I found Inquisition disappointing, Akhlys is fucking brilliant. Everything sounds dark, almost borderline unhinged as far as the aggression levels and the just kind of sonic violence on every song is concerned. And every single track fits together perfectly because it's kind of held together by this interwoven strand of dark ambient music and all just kind of these dark ambient effects that hold together every single song. I think that Akhlys, you know, I've taken a lot of traditional black metal tropes as kind of their point of departure, and they've turned it into something that, in my view, is just absolutely fucking magical. It is no surprise to me that there's as much hype around Melano as what there is, and it's not going to be a surprise to me that it's probably going to feature on just about every other, you know, best of 2020 list that you're going to see, and spoiler alert, including mine. Off of Melano, which is going to be available on Deborah Morty Productions, I believe, on the 14th of December. I'm going to play a track right now. Before I play that track, just one thing to mention: Deborah Morty Productions have had a fucking astounding year by all measures. I think on my 2020 list there's about at least 5 or 6 of their bands. Yeah, I mean, they've just put out an astounding amount of great music, and they do a really good job with things like their vinyls and their presentation. So kudos to those guys. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get one of them on the show maybe next year or early next year to talk about the label a bit more. Obviously, I had Katie from Season of Mist to talk about what they do. So I like having folks from labels on from time to time, but it just seems to me, you know, also following on from that conversation I had with Tim from the Amenta, there seems to be this really singular vision at Deborah Morty, and it's doing them really well. And certainly, if it's responsible for things like the new Akhlys, then fucking, you know, I can't wait to see what they're going to be dropping on us in the next couple of next couple of years. Speaking of dropping on us, this is a track called Somnoliloquy. I know I probably butchered the name of that song, but I don't give a fuck. Just turn this up loud and enjoy. Somniloquy by Akhlys off a record called Melano. And if my previous superlatives were not enough, this is an absolute masterpiece, and it is going to be available on Deborah Morty Productions as of December the 14th. So make sure that you check them out on Bandcamp. Make sure that you buy some of their stuff. They got some really, really cool shirts up on that Bandcamp, which I actually want to buy myself a couple also. But yeah, just absolutely fucking incredible. And kudos to Nas for producing a record that I think is going to be discussed for many, many years to come. Right, time now for some news. The first bit of news is that Behemoth has announced a European co-headlining tour with Arch Enemy. I know Behemoth is a pretty cool band live, and I have seen them a few times, but I don't know. On one hand, I really respect what Nergal has done as far as the amount of success that Behemoth has had. And really, he has achieved a lot of that success entirely, on his own terms and off his own back. And I don't want to sound like an elitist because I'm not, but there's just, I don't know. There's just something about Behemoth that doesn't really excite me anymore. It's like when you've eaten ground beef all your life and somebody gives you steak. I kind of feel like Behemoth or the ground beef of black metal. Selbst is the steak. We move on. The Ruins of Beverast, a new album coming in February 2021. I am so fucking excited about this that I almost don't want to talk about it because I'm scared that I am lining myself up for another disappointment a la Inquisition and Andracca. But regardless, the time has come for Alexander von Malenwald's Doom Black creation, The Ruins of Beverast, to announce the release of a new album. The Tool Grimoire, or Grimoires, will feature 7 new songs, and the release is scheduled for February 5th via Van Records. Pre-sale will start in mid-December. Stay tuned for further information. The label then goes on to provide one of the most bizarre, esoteric descriptions of Ruins of Beverast's music you can imagine, which is probably fitting because the Ruins of Beverast is bizarre and esoteric, but they are also fucking brilliant. And if you checked out episode 40, you will know that this record has been in the offing for quite some time now. I myself am extremely excited about it. Like I said, I really like the album cover as well. I think it looks fucking dark and sinister, which I hope is a pretext for what the rest of the record's going to sound like. But it also looks as though they may be releasing some music beforehand, which I kind of almost don't want to listen to because I want to get myself... I want to build up the anticipation before that album comes out. Hatebreed, new lyric video online. Much like Nergal... kind of rubs me the wrong way whilst not actually really doing anything to deserve it. I've started to feel like that recently about Jamie Jasta a bit too. I've been a fan of Hatebreed more as kind of gym music than anything else for a while. They are a great live band, but I listened to Weight of the False Self the other day, and I don't know if it's just because Jamie's Twitter feed is a morass of stupidity, but it didn't really do anything for me. Cadaver release lyric video. I really ought to have spent a lot more time with this Cadaver record than I have, and I am going to wrap myself over the knuckles right now about it because I also know that quite a few folks are including this on their best of 2020 lists, and frankly, I've not even listened to it yet. But it says here, back with a vengeance and hell bent on destruction, Norwegian death metalers Cadaver are back in business and ready to reign. Eder and Bile, terrible name for a record. The first full length from this band's new incarnation of Anders Odin's original extreme metal vision has just been unleashed unto the world via Nuclear Blast Records. In celebration, the band offer the fans the lyric video of Let Me Burn. I will definitely check that out. Like I said, Eder and Bile, though, it's a fucking dumb name for a record. I don't know why you would call your band that. I mean, next it's going to be, or not your band, your album that. Next it's going to be Pus Seeping from the Lanced Boil or something equally fucking moronic. Azarath launched first ever music video. Nick Sagias actually was particularly excited about this. Poland's esteemed black death metal collective Azarath have unveiled a music video for the freshly released Saint Desecration album's closing track, Beyond the Gates of Burning Gats. The video, a first for the band in their 22-year history, was filmed by the renowned Grouper 13 production house. Again, briefly listened to Azarath. Didn't mind it. Didn't really grab me, but it may well be that further investigation is required. It's just one of those things where there's just such a deluge of great stuff coming out this year, and I do try and pace myself so that when I'm talking about a record on year, it's actually something that I've listened to for a period of time rather than just kind of skimmed through. And I've spoken about that. One of the reasons why I didn't want to be a writer anymore or write for Chronicles of Chaos or Metal Rules was just because I didn't have enough time to spend with the music to, I believe, give it its proper due and actually review it fairly. So you've got this pressure to do 5, 6, 7 interviews a month, but really if you want to properly dig in under the guts of an album, you need to listen to it at least 10 to 15 times, in my opinion. That just is not possible if you work a full-time job. Paradise Lost, new lyric video streaming. It's interesting to me that there seems to be more hype for this Draconian Times reissue. And by the way, it's not the first time that this album has been reissued, because there's also, I believe, I think there's like if I'm not mistaken, and by the way, this fucking light keeps on going on and off. So if you see me kind of lean or lean to the side and get pissed off, or you suddenly hear things getting smashed, it's this light. Anyway, sorry. My point that I was making was there seems to be more hype for this Draconian Times reissue than there was for the last Paradise Lost album. Now, I don't know whether that's because the most recent record that band has put out has underperformed. You guys know my views on that album. I think it's an album of two halves. On one side, you've got a band that I think probably wanted to make a record that sounded probably closer to Draconian Times than maybe Medusa. And so a lot of the death metal stuff to me on the new record just sounds like the band is on autopilot, which is not to say that I didn't like the death metal stuff on the previous records. I absolutely loved it. Paradise Lost is one of my favorite bands, but there's just a distinct lack of inspiration on some of the newer stuff, whereas I feel like when they kind of switch into that gothic rock stroke metal mode, they just sound like they're enjoying that a lot more. So yeah, so maybe with that in mind, maybe that's why there's so much more of a push for Draconian Times. My personal experience with this record is it did take me a little while to get into it. I think the hook for me was 2 tracks, Enchantment and Forever Failure. And those 2 tracks kept me coming back to the record. But I remember when I first heard it, I recorded onto cassette only about 4 songs because I didn't like the rest. And that was coming from having discovered them on Gothic. Then hearing Shades of God and being completely obsessed with that record and really enjoying Icon. Draconian Times, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's because at the time I was a massive death metal guy, so it sounded to me like it was a bit wimpy, and I believed in the mantra of never wimping. But it was only, I think, probably a couple of years later that I started listening to the album back to back and realized that with the exception of the fucking atrocious single that they put out off that album, The Last Time, which whenever they play it live, that's when it's my cue for a piss break. The rest of the record is really good. So glad to see it, glad to see it getting some attention again. Why it has to be reissued for the umpteenth time, I don't know. I'm curious to see what Paradise Lost do on their next album, though, because I'm gonna take a bet and say that it is not going to have any of the death metal stuff on. If it does, it's going to be very, very, very sparingly used. So, what else is there to talk to y'alls about? Agonia Records defend signing Inquisition. I said I'm going to talk about this. Now, look, I'm not going to go into detail around this Inquisition story. I know there's a case that dates back 12 years now where Dagon was caught with some compromising photos. My understanding is that, he was never placed on the sex offender register. So, there was clearly some sort of mitigating circumstances there. I mean, it's not like, the dude's not fucking Justin Bieber. So it's not like he has, elite privilege where he can pretty much do whatever he wants and he's going to get, he's going to get given a free pass. Child pornography is still a very serious thing, in spite of what some of these fucking minor attractive acceptance idiots in California would want to have you believe. So I would assume that depending on if this was really, really serious, he would have been in a lot more trouble than he ended up being in. That said, it cost him his deal with Century Media, not Century Media, with Season of Mist. I would say Inquisition have certainly lost a lot of fans because of it. My position, as I've said, I separate the art from the artist. I don't need to agree with everything that somebody does. I don't even need to agree with somebody morally to appreciate what they do musically. That being said, Agonia Records, I think, have really kind of stepped on a rake here. And what I'm referring to in particular is a Twitter exchange they had with somebody named Gory Gal. Gory Gal, I don't know what her original comment was, but I'm sure it was, one of outrage. Agonia Records responds to her by saying, "I'm sorry to hear that. Dagon isn't listed as a sex offender. True. There's a difference between being caught possessing pictures 10 plus years ago and actually hurting someone. Most likely," and this is where they not just step on the rake, but they fucking jump on it from, the third story. "Most likely the only person that got hurt in the process or in process is Dagon himself due to his ill-advised decisions. You guys are fucking stupid. I'm very sorry, but that is the dumbest shit that I've ever heard of in my entire life. If you have photos, you are enabling an industry that is filled with fucking scumbags that need to be lined up and taken out with fucking anti-aircraft guns, the way that Kim Jong gets rid of his political opponents in North Korea. Like I said, it doesn't matter what the fucking excuse is. It doesn't matter whether you weren't standing there with the camera yourself. To participate is, I believe, to empower or to enable, and it's wrong no matter what. Hopefully, Dagon has learned his lesson, and I do believe that people should be given a second chance. It certainly hasn't seemed like there's been anything else that's come out since. But just to say that the only person that got hurt is Dagon, I think that's fucking ridiculous. And I think Agonia is going to deal with some fallout for that comment for a fair while after this. And not least of all, I think, from some of the bands that are on the label. And I mean, they've been signing some great bands, so it's a shame too. But let's park that fucking morbid shit for a while and talk about something a little more positive. Rotting Christ's entire discography is now available for streaming. It says here, during these difficult times of lockdowns and quarantines, Rotting Christ are offering their fans an unexpected gift. The band's entire discography, from the Passage to Arcturo EP up to 2019's The Heretics, is available for streaming on their YouTube channel. A total of 16 albums are featured, and all you have to do to listen is click here, and it gives a link. I would assume it's all on YouTube, so go check it out. If you are not familiar with the entire Rotting Christ discography, then frankly, you have no business listening to this podcast, and most likely don't listen to this podcast. That being said, I do have a bone to pick with Sagias, because I've tried to get him on the podcast a couple of times now. Last year, The Heretics was on my best of 2019 list. And I have spoken to him a couple of times before. Fun fact, after I'd spoken to him, or very shortly after I spoke to him, the 7th of July bombings happened here in London. And one of the first messages I got from somebody to ask me whether I was okay was actually from him. Anyway, so I, on and off, I'd exchanged messages with him over the last couple of years. I messaged him to say, The Heretics was up on the list, and I would love to, do a podcast with him and catch up and stuff like that. Tried to get it set up through Season of Mist after he was fairly unresponsive on Facebook, which I understand. He probably gets 910 fucking requests like that every other day, and it turns out the guy just flat out doesn't want to use Zoom. So. Why, I don't know. Why people, and he's not the only one, by the way. I've had a couple of people, including a drummer of a certain band that I'm a big fan of, that I've spoken about many times on the show, and whose every other member has been on here. They just don't want to use Zoom. Jesus Christ, it's a fucking click. And, you switch on your camera and you switch on your audio. How goddamn difficult is that? But that being said, Rotting Christ's music are great. And, in spite of Sagias' technical, shall we say, inadequacies, he's an incredible musician, and he's a great dude, which is why I wanted him on the podcast. But I have to say as well, I work in a job where I don't have the fucking patience to go back and forth with people on stuff. If you don't want to, if I've asked you to do something and you don't come back to me, or you don't, you've got 10 excuses as to why you want to use Skype instead of Zoom or whatever the case may be. I can't be fucking. I would rather record. I would rather have every single one of the podcasts be exactly like this, just me looking at the camera talking shit, because I cannot deal with more morons than what I already deal with for at least 13 hours a day at work. Let's go on to Blabbermouth as we close things off and see if there's anything to make fun of over here. I mean, I don't know what the Democrats' guide to rock music is going to do if Biden is elected, because, I mean, what's Tommy Lee, Corey Taylor, Alex Skolnick, and Dee Snider going to talk about? But anyway, as we can see, things are fairly threadbare, at least as far as people giving us their expert political analysis is concerned. Former Motley Crue singer John Corabi says his upcoming autobiography will piss off a few of his his ex-wives, his stepwives. Corabi was the guy that also apparently came to blows with somebody for not wearing a mask at a shop. I spoke about that a little while ago. John Corabi. He titles his autobiography "Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, Bro." It was written with the help of Motley Crue historian author Paul Miles. I've said this a couple of times before, and I don't know whether these fucking idiots have gotten a Me Too pass because they actually, wrote about it in their book, In the Dirt. But how these assholes from Motley Crue are not yet banned from, playing anywhere, or, having their records released anywhere, I don't understand. Whilst fine, upstanding comedians like Brian Callen is, barred from doing his podcast because of a few off-color comments he made to some ladies. And I mean, from everything I've seen, it was flirtatious. I've heard worse in a fucking bar. So yeah, I don't know. I still say, the guys from Motley Crue are all scum of the earth, and the less that I hear of their stupid music, the better. System of a Down, Serge Tankian. We've never tried to appeal to a mainstream audience. Again, I think John is a cool guy from System of a Down, and actually, to be fair, I didn't think those two songs they released were too bad either. But I think Serge is talking nonsense when he says they've never tried to appeal to a mainstream audience. I mean, especially that stupid fucking bring your own bombs crap. I mean, it was nothing short of a goddamn Britney Spears chorus in that stupid song. And the worst about that whole song was when I saw them live, seeing all these fucking idiots in their Marilyn Manson and their Slipknot t-shirts dancing along like they were at the club. Finally, I'm being accepted. Philip Anselmo Scour releases music video for Flames. I love Scour. I love the idea of them, closing off the EP trilogy and hopefully putting out a full-length record. I've not actually heard the Black EP, or I've not listened to it properly yet. I've listened to one or two songs, but I will definitely check it out. I fucking loved, I think the first one was Grey and the second one was Red. I love them both. And kudos to Philip Horace Anselmo for the ability that he has demonstrated over the last couple of years to keep himself relevant, where many of his peers are relying on, as I intimated previously, moaning about Trump and fucking playing their old albums on tour to get any sort of attention. Phil has done N Minor, which was the acoustic project, which is exceptional. He's seems like Down has been reactivated, and they did an incredible live stream a couple of months ago. Really, in my opinion, a live stream that kind of sets the standard for live streams going forward. And then Scour has come out as well, which is fucking fantastic. So if there were a wish list dude to have on the show, it would be Phil Anselmo. I really would love to have him on, and I wouldn't talk to him about all of the usual crap, so tell me, what was it like being the front man in Pantera? Did Dime drink as much as people say? I'd want to talk to him about, extreme music. I'd like to talk to him about black metal. I'd like to talk to him about what it was like kind of pushing all of those things, in the 90s when, everyone thought he was a weirdo for running around in a Dark Throne shirt. I'm keen to understand as well how a guy that is so misinterpreted can write such incredibly soulful and beautiful lyrics. Because if you read some of the stuff that he's written in Down, even in Pantera, it's I don't think he necessarily always comes across as particularly book smart, but there's a poetry to what he writes that suggests to me that the guy is not an idiot. Static X still doesn't want to publicly reveal new singer's identity, even though everyone knows who it is. I mean, if ever there was something that's a fucking, as far as music is concerned, a contender for stupidest headline of the year, it's that. Everybody knows it's Edsel Dope. I mean, he was on the fucking Jamie Jasta podcast without his mask. Static X bassist Tony Campos says that he knew there would be some negativity in response to the band's decision to reunite without its late frontman Wayne Static. Why there's negativity, I don't know either. Many bands reunite after they've lost a frontman. I know that Wayne Static was, the kind of the main dude in Static X, but, the new album's not bad. If you don't like it, don't listen to it. People get their fucking panties in a bunch over the dumbest nonsense on the face of the earth nowadays, I think. I don't want to see anything more about Corey Taylor. I will close off with this. Sepultura's Derek Green says his comments about reunion with Max Cavalera were completely misinterpreted. I feel really sorry for Derek because I feel like he's in the middle of this never-ending tussle between Gloria and Max acting like a spurned lover, and I think the guys from Sepultura. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I sometimes feel like Andreas, and particularly Andreas, actually, not Paolo so much, but they almost interject this conversation into interviews just to kind of make sure that they stay in the news. And I think from observations, Derek just wants to get on with being the front man in a band that he has fronted for longer than Max Cavalera, by the way. And that he's done a fucking great job with. I mean, I don't understand what people want from the guy. He's come in, he's been hired to do a job. I think his contribution has been excellent. If you remove the old blinkers, if you're a Cavalera fucking loyalist, I think he's done a superb job. And he strikes me as a very cool guy, in spite of the fact that he's a vegan. Normally veganism to me is the death knell, and I wouldn't associate with anyone that doesn't eat meat, but Derek seems to me like he's an okay guy. And on that note, I am going to finish up with news for this week. And I am going to bid all of you fine folks a fond farewell. I have had a blast on this episode. I hope that you guys have enjoyed listening to it. Another fun fact for you, I had to re-record every goddamn fucking intro, outro, the news, everything, because yesterday I made some changes to my setup here, which is potentially why the sound is a little different as well on my microphone. And anyway, I had recorded every single thing, was just about to start editing, and realized that for some fucking stupid reason, Adobe Premiere doesn't or is not compatible with MKV files. So I've had to re-record everything today, which is why the video will probably be up a little later than normal. But that doesn't matter because you guys will get it anyway at some point. And a reminder, next week I've got the lovely Kelly T of Kelly T Reviews on to kick off the countdown of my favorite releases of 2020. In the meantime, wherever you are, whatever it is that you're doing, from Mean Street Studios, I'm wishing all of you bad motherfuckers a fond farewell.